I'm here to talk about what happens the day after the election, when whoever is elected has the responsibility for governing and governing well and solving the challenges that we face. Now, one of those challenges, of course, that you are in the midst of and that seems to be gripping the imagination and the political mindset here is the question of the future of Europe. And this is a question that Jürgen Habermas, the well-known participatory and deliberative democratic theorist that most of us had to read in school, is very obsessed with right now. And he is deeply critical of the European project for the failure to make it more democratically legitimate, for the failing to create institutions that are truly participatory and that generally reflect the will of the people, in favor of technocratic institutions that govern behind closed doors, to the end of achieving better outcomes. But I would like to suggest to you and hopefully show today a few of the ways in which Habermas is wrong. In the following sense, participatory Democrats like him tend to view a distinction between technocracy, in other words, effective outcomes and good decisions and problems solved, with legitimate participatory democratic institutions, citizen engagement to the end of asking people how they feel in order to make government more legitimate, if you will. But here is the problem with this. The problem that I put to you is that, number one, the absence of democratic participation does not make institutions more legitimate, does not make them more effective. And he cites, of course, the Greek debt crisis, and we have similar problems in the United States as well, that where we take away democratic participation, it's no guarantee of legitimacy or effectiveness. But what he misses is the fact that actually participation does not have to be about simply asking people how they feel, simply building legitimacy, but can be a way to make government more effective. And let me start by giving you one example from the US and one from the UK of two similar projects where participation is actually helping to solve real problems, in this case to save real lives. So the fire department of San Ramon, California created an app called PulsePoint in order to help connect people who can perform CPR or use a defibrillator to connect them to people who may have an accident or may have a heart attack. So using open data, an open feed from 999, if you will, our 911 in the US, they are able to geolocate where someone is having a heart attack and the location of somebody nearby who may have cardiopulmonary resuscitation experience, who may be a trained lifesaver. So what happens as a result? Here is California, the area that San Ramon covers, and the dots reflect the number of police and fire and ambulance, the typical government services that come to your aid when you have a heart attack. When you combine that with the ability to target a single skill, the ability to perform CPR among citizens, the coverage looks like this. 7,000 lives have been saved using this service over the last 3 years. And now, 4 months ago, London has started something similar called the Good Sam service. Good Samaritan service is initially beginning by registering nurses and doctors and ambulance drivers. In other words, the off-duty people who may be in this room who could help in the event of an accident. And now they're moving on to register you and me and those of us with CPR training to the end of, again, increasing our ability to save lives in accidents. So if you take away nothing else from my presentation and do nothing else after you leave today, I would encourage you, please, to sign up for this. What's enabling a project like Good Sam or PulsePoint is the fact that we now have technology that is allowing us to show and others to find the expertise that we have, right? So you can think of something as simple as the idea of a LinkedIn. And I bet if I asked you today, actually, let me ask you, how many people here have a LinkedIn profile? It is practically universal, the fact that it is now expected that we will make our credentials more digital and more searchable. But there are new indicia of the things that we know and can do that go beyond the diplomas that we can cite to on LinkedIn. Right now, I can take a course online. Every night, my son and I study Spanish on the free Duolingo app. And after a little while, Duolingo gives me a badge. I have received a badge now that I am 4% fluent in Spanish. I have particularly completed the units on flirting and useful words for Christmas. So I can now get a date on Christmas Eve, I suppose. It's 4%. But in any case, I get a digital badge, which I could put on my website or on my LinkedIn profile and allow you to find me should you be looking for somebody who knows how to ask for a date on Christmas Eve. If I'm a coder, this is a very familiar concept, right? I can create the code that I make, I put up the repository of my code on GitHub, and then you can search for the people, not who have a degree in computer science, but you can actually look at what they've done and what they've created, and thereby find people. And if you're Google, for example, 14% of the people who work in Google globally don't have a degree. They don't have a university diploma, but they do have a GitHub profile where a manager can go and search for what they know. And very often, what we know is often what we care about. So Panos Iperotis is a scholar who does work that actually showcases and demonstrates empirical that people who care about it and are passionate about a topic, take, for example, a family member or a patient of a person with a particular disease, has a lot of deep knowledge and expertise that's independent of having to go to university and get a medical degree. I'm sure any one of you in the room have this familiarity, either from yourselves or from a loved one who has a condition. You know a heck of a lot more about managing that condition and living with it, often than the doctors who treat you. The question, though, is how we take this know-how, which is increasingly becoming more liquid, more diverse, more visible, and more searchable, and apply it to making public institutions better. And that's the question that I put to you today, and that I hope we can talk about. What are the practical strategies for doing that?